Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fears. So, yesterday I was on Facebook and I came across this interesting article about this NBA player by the name of Patrick Patterson. He made some controversial remarks about black women. So, what I'm going to do is read some excerpts from these two articles. The first article deals with the controversy, the second article deals with his so called apology. So, let's get right into it. This article says that LA Clipper player Patrick Patterson is catching heat for an old Instagram post in which he called black women bulldogs while gushing about his white girlfriend. So basically, you had an Instagram user get on his page after seeing him with this white woman, basically asking, why are so many black athletes with these white women? And this is what this guy, Patrick Patterson, had to say about this. He said, should I settle for a bulldog and act like I'm happy with my life and preach, keep it in your race to the world as if Dr. King didn't fight, die for equality, acceptance, all cultures loving one another and no hate? So that's his initial response to this person on Instagram. And then, of course, there have been a lot of people attacking him, and rightfully so, expressing outrage. And in response to this controversy, he wants to pretend like this has nothing to do with black women and that he was basically just talking about this one guy in particular's wife. So let's get into it. Let's read some of what he had to say in his apology. So he said this. He says, I want to address my use of the word bulldog during a conversation with someone who I felt was making disrespectful remarks about my wife and our relationship. I responded with the same, making a cruel comment on his wife's physical stature. I know that two wrongs don't make a right, but I let my emotions get the better of me in the heat of the moment. For that, I apologize to him, his wife, and the rest of his family for the hurtful and crude comments made on that day. And it goes on, the article goes on to say this. He says, while admitting the comment was cruel, the basketballer insisted that he never used the word bulldog to refer to black women. And he went on to say this, as I did in the rest of the conversation thread multiple times, I will clarify again that I was not using the term as a reference to black women. This is not at all how I feel. I do not need to justify to the world I love my black people. I have no animosity or bitterness towards any race. I believe in love and equality. So that's what he had to say about this controversy. And this is an old post, but for whatever reason, uh, it's generated a lot of attention recently, this year. I think they said this post was from 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's from 2018, a whole year ago, but they're talking about it now. And I would really be interested in knowing why it came up now. And, for people who know that information, please put that in the comment section. I'm really interested in finding that out. But let's go through his comment. This person was asking him about race. He wasn't asking him about why didn't he pick a better woman or anything like that. It wasn't, an attack on that woman as an individual. From what I understand, it was a general question about all these black athletes choosing white women. And you see this all the time. You see anytime these black athletes make it big, the first thing they do is get them a white woman in a mansion. So it's like a white woman is viewed as some kind of trophy in the minds of these guys because they have been programmed to believe that this white woman is the standard of beauty. It is not a coincidence that a large number of these guys, the first thing that they do is get a white woman. That's not a coincidence. It's by design. We have been programmed to worship these white people and white women in particular, to literally worship white people. You go to these churches, you see white images of God literally on the church. You open up your fairy tales and you're reading about some white damsel in distress. As a kid, you're taught all this stuff, taught to value and worship white women. So this is why a lot of men have been, programmed to, chase after this white woman. Even these so-called woke guys be on YouTube drooling over these white women all the time, man. And it's not a coincidence. It's a result of intensive programming that our people have been under for 400 years since we were brought to this country. So the thing is, when this guy responds, he says, well, should I settle? So for him, the idea of being with a black woman is settling. The idea of being with your own is somehow some kind of compromise, as if you're sacrificing something by being with a black woman. And to me, that reflects the self-hating pathology that a lot of our people suffer from. Unfortunately, you know, some people think that, the white woman is on some higher level, that somehow she's something to aspire to attain. And if you don't get her, then you're settling. When you get with your own beautiful black woman, somehow that's settling. Again, that reflects the mindset of some of these people. And for him to say the term bulldog, he's not talking about that one. To me, it's clear just looking at the statement. He's not just talking about this guy's wife, this other person's wife or girlfriend or anything like that. He's making a larger statement about black women. No matter how much he tries to run from it, that's what he's doing. Because this comment directly dealt with race. It wasn't no individualized thing. It was about the question of these black athletes dating these white women. And this guy goes on to say, should I have to settle for a bulldog? So he's comparing black women to a bulldog, ugly dog, one of the ugliest dogs that we can see. The ugliest dog ever. That's what he sees black women as. And we know what a female dog is. A female dog is a bitch. And he's basically saying these black women are bitches. This is your black athlete. This is the black athlete that a lot of our young people are looking up to and celebrating and stuff like that. And the fact that we celebrate, people for playing a sport, I mean, it's entertaining and it does have some kind of value in it. But the fact that we hold these people in such high esteem and literally worship these people, hold them up as idols and all that kind of stuff, to me is absurd. These people are literally playing with a ball, dribbling a ball down a court and putting it through a net, but somehow these people are put on some kind of pedestal and viewed as some kind of icons and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a whole nother story, but still, this guy sees himself as settling for something. Sees the idea of being with a black woman as settling for something. Then this guy goes on to use Martin Luther King, to pimp Martin Luther King's legacy to justify his lust for the white woman. And to me, that's a disgrace. King didn't fight so that some athlete could get his share of white women. That's not what the brother was fighting for. He wasn't fighting for you to have some marriage with some white woman. That was not what his fight was about. He was fighting so that we could have equal education, equal opportunities, equality in society. He was fighting so that we didn't have to suffer through segregation. We didn't have to deal with no colored signs. We didn't have to sit at the back of the bus. So we wouldn't have to drink from the colored fountains. That's what the brother was fighting for. That's what he was fighting for. Not so that you could lay up with some white woman. He was fighting so that we could have a right to vote. Fighting so that we could have access to education and things of that nature. That's what the brother was fighting for. So, I mean, it's like these people try to water down the brother Martin Luther King's legacy to make it seem like all he was fighting for was to be able to lay up with white women. And unfortunately, that's how some of these fake pro-blacks interpret his legacy as well. That's not what the brother was fighting for. He was fighting for human dignity. He was fighting for respect. He was fighting for human rights and civil rights, not for you to be able to lay up with some white woman. So that's one thing. And then this guy went on, in his comments, he was talking about how color doesn't matter. And to me, that's ridiculous, man. This whole society is rooted in racism. This whole society is based on colorism and based on ranking people and treating people differently based on their race. So race matters in every single way in the society. You know, race mattered the moment those people kidnapped us and brought us to America. Race mattered while we were segregated and humiliated under Jim Crow. Race matters today as our young black men are being killed by these police on a daily basis and there's no justice. So race matters. Race matters when you look at the massive wealth disparities between black people and white people. So this brother, this basketball player needs to wake the hell up. So, you know, his apology was not an apology, not a real apology to black people or to black women. It was a apology that was directed at an individual when his statement was directed towards a group of women, black women. The black woman is the most beautiful woman on the planet Earth. You know, so for him to disrespect a black woman when he came from a black woman, when I'm sure he has black women relatives and all that kind of stuff, is a disgrace. It's a damn shame for this man to make these kind of remarks. And the last thing I want to address is this, man, like people trolling people on Instagram and stuff like that. And, you know, this whole thing about attacking somebody because of the choice that they made in their relationship. You know, obviously, you know, I believe in black love. I think that black people need to love one another and black people belong with one another. But I'm not going to get on somebody's Instagram harassing them because they have made a decision to marry somebody that's white or to date somebody that's white. To me, that's juvenile, man. It's like we have better things to be worried about than somebody making some individual choice in their own little relationship. You know, as long as they're not disrespecting black women as a group or black people, then let them do what they're gonna do, man. You know, that's the last thing I need to be worried about is somebody making some personal choice. But when you disrespect black women, or when you disrespect black men or disrespect black people, then it becomes my business. Then it's time for you to be addressed. It's time for you to be dealt with. You know, I'm not one to get on here and complain anytime somebody's with a white spouse or anything like that. But when they disrespect black women or disrespect black men, that's when I get on here and talk about what's really good and, you know, and deal with the issue. You know, so it's like, why harass somebody because of their personal choice? Like, I think it's a waste of time, a waste of energy. Like, we have far more pressing issues in our community than that. We got issues like poverty, issues like police brutality, issues like mass incarceration, issues like voter suppression, issues like failing schools. Those are the things that we need to be focused on instead of focusing on some individual athlete and their personal decision. It's like, just like you had some people getting all worked up because Serena Williams decided to marry this white guy or whatever. And, you know, every time some black woman marries some white guy or, you know, some black man marries some white woman, all of a sudden there's some big issue. And all of a sudden people are talking about it. Again, as I stated before, I believe in black love, but I'm not going to waste my energy just going after somebody solely because they decided to date or marry outside of their race. Again, if they're disparaging our people, then that's another story. But anyway, tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video. I'm really interested in hearing what you think about this story. Peace and blessings. Have a great Thanksgiving.